It has to have the correct coordinates of where you are to be able to calculate between where you are and where you say you want to go. So I would say this: you want to achieve your dreams. I've said you must have dreams. You've got to identify where you are. Okay, so in your dreams you see yourself becoming the CEO of a multinational corporation. That's fantastic. So where are you now? See where you are. Maybe different from where your friend is. And you see that will determine to a large extent the route that you'll take, how fast you will need to go. Where are you? There are so many people who live unrealistic lives. I'm telling you, they're vague in their thinking, they are wishful thinkers, they refuse to accept reality. If you were not born into a rich family, you were not born into a rich family. And there's no point living a lie and deceiving people, and of course ultimately deceiving yourself. Identify specifically where you are and where you start from. And along with that, you need to identify what you are starting with. This is important. Okay? So, what are you starting with in terms of resources, financial resources, in terms of assets? What are you starting with in terms of connections? What are you starting with in terms of academic qualification? What are you starting with in terms of experience? In terms of skills and expertise, you've got to start where you are. Some people never start. And I know one of the major reasons is they refuse to accept the reality of where they are. They're busy comparing themselves to somebody else. And they keep wishing that they could start in a better place than they are. This is important. I wrote a book titled Start With What You Have. Okay? When you keep dreaming and keep planning on starting with what you don't have, you will never start. Because you are assuming that you must start with what you don't have. And unfortunately, you don't have it. Identify where you are. The GPS system has to have that to have something to work with. Even you need that to have something to work with. All your calculations will be completely unrealistic if you keep planning, oh, if I had $10,000, I would start my business. You have only $200. Your thinking is, if I had $10,000, I would start. See? If you keep thinking like that, until you have $10,000, you will not start. And if you don't start, you can't even make any progress in the first place. How about adjusting your plans to start with $200? Identify where you are and start from there. And then you remember, for the GPS to work, you've got to identify where you are going. 1 year from now, where do you plan to be? 5 years from now, where do you plan to be? 10 years from now, where do you plan to be? Okay, if you haven't gotten that figured out yet, I'll challenge you to carry out an exercise that I do once in a while. I mean, the first time I did this, and I mean, that was some 16 years ago or so, it seemed unrealistic, but I'm telling you, it was revolutionary. I took a book, sat down, and wrote a day in my life, 5 years from now. Then I wrote exactly 5 years from that date. I imagined my whole day from the point of waking up. I'm telling you, I described the room in which I would wake up. I described the house that I slept in. I described how I would take my children to school. I described the car that we would ride in. I would have one. I described how I would go to the office. You know, after dropping off our daughter, I described what the office would look like. That's dreaming, practical dreaming. And this was not just vague. I was writing it down. Where are you going? What's your vision? That powerful, often quoted statement from King Solomon, that phenomenally wise man, says, where there is no vision, people perish. See, without a dream, you're sunk. This exercise may seem like a waste of time to you. You may have some very urgent things to do now, but listen to me. If you don't dream about tomorrow, you don't have a clear-cut picture about what tomorrow is going to look like, tomorrow you'll be doing exactly the same thing you are doing today, or even less. It's your chance to create your tomorrow. You know, there are many people who are trying to change our world right now. They're trying to change our political world, trying to change our economic world. You know, there are people trying to change our social circumstances. And what they realize is that they're powerless, that there are people who seem to be in control of those different areas of the society. When you look closely at those people, you will realize one thing. They didn't just wake up in control today. They've been at it since yesterday. Wow. Tomorrow is created today. Today was created yesterday, and it was created in some people's minds and imaginations. They designed it, and then everything flows into the design. That's the reality. The best time to create your tomorrow is today, and the place where you do it is in your imagination. It is in your dreams. So you've got to define where you are going. Then you can move on to the big assignment. Create or locate the positions between where you are and where you are going. Identify the positions between where you are and where you are going. Connect the dots. This is important. I've defined where I am. I've defined where I'm going. Which road is going to take me there? What are going to be my milestones? Since I was young, I noticed that when I would travel in the car with my parents, every mile I saw a stone on the road, and it said how many miles were left to the next destination or the next major city. Give one a sense of progress, or a measure of the progress that one was making. If you had 100 miles to go, by the time it was 95, you knew you still had a long way to go. When it was 50, you knew you were halfway. When it was 5 miles to go, you knew, whoa, we're almost there. How will you know whether you are making progress in life or not if you have no targets? I mean, broken down at different stages between where you are and where you want to be. You've got to have milestones. So that's why we talk about the strategic plan. That the absence of a strategic plan is the reason why many dreams are never fulfilled. And strategy is simply finding the best points to leverage on to achieve your goals. So you've got to look at the map between where you are and where you want to go. If I take this route, how long will it take? If I take that route, how long will it take? Which route is longer than the other? Have you observed that the shortest route may not necessarily be the fastest? You want to know the number of toll gates that are in between. You want to find out if there are specific places where you have heavy traffic build-up. You want to know how many traffic lights are in between. Maybe a freeway would even be better for you, or a motorway like it's described.